It's time for Vechtersbazen!
De Vechtersbazen zijn terug in je leven, terug op je beeldscherm of op je oren, hoe je deze podcast ook tot je neemt. Je weet, we zijn er elke week met de beste verhalen van je favoriete vechters van het hele verleden, toekomst of de beste coaches die je maar kan voorstellen. En vandaag heb ik echt twee elite coaches op wereldniveau. En ik ben heel blij dat ik hier heb aan de ene kant Paul Lamoth, trainer van onder andere Melvin Manhoef, Andy Sauer, gisteren in actie nog geweest met Yuri Belgaroui bij LFL. En straight out of Anaheim, Captain Erik, who we saw just 2 days ago coaching two guys, Paulo Costa and Henry Cejudo. I'm very honored and pleased to have you here. First of all, to you, what brings you to Amsterdam?
Well, I'm on a connection. So I have a 6-hour connection. I'm on the way to the PFL champs versus the Bellator champs in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So I had a 6-hour layover. And, you know, I got to see my boy Paul Lamoth. You know, he was part of the... was it 1 or 2 camps?
Two camps.
Two camps.
Yeah.
What was your connection?
Mariah
and Dillashaw.
And Dillashaw. So part of, you know, Henry's run that he did when he beat Demetrius Johnson, and then Dillashaw, and then Marias, and then Cruz.
Yeah, Cruz. We couldn't claim him because Trump closed the door because of the corona.
He was part of that unbelievable run that Henry had, in which he was beating, you know, that fight with TJ Dillashaw was so important. Thank God Paul was there because we saved the flyweight division. There would be no Figueiredo, there would be no Pantoja, there would be no Moreno, because they were cutting that weight class.
Yeah.
It was down to 9 people in the weight when Henry fought TJ Dillashaw, and TJ Dillashaw was coming down to kill it, and we know how that went.
Yeah, that real swift, real quick.
32 seconds,
I think something like that, yeah.
But obviously you have a great pedigree from the wrestling side of things. You have a great pedigree from the kickboxing, from the striking side of things. How did the two of you connect initially?
Actually, they came off to Holland. They make a world tour, striking tour, because Henry lost from Demetrius Johnson, and then this smart coach said, okay, we're going to work on the striking. And they went over the whole world, Thailand, I think Singapore, and finally to Holland, and there we meet. And then we clicked, and they liked what we did, so that's how the connection went, I think.
We've been trying to get Paul back, but he's too busy. We're trying to get him back a couple times. He's like, I'm opening up my own gym.
I started with my own gym, so I spend a lot of time there, and then you have to make choices. So I don't know if it's the right choice, but we made that choice. No, it's the right choice. Actually, no, I'm glad. Really, I'm happy. No, that's not the case. But you can only do one thing. Yeah, and focus. You know.
What interests me really a lot, because you both great minds in your own field of combat sports, right? But still, wrestling is so different from striking, from kickboxing. You know, what are the levels that you connect to? Because eventually, you turn out to speak the same language, right?
It was he could speak English, but more importantly, he brought us out to he's like, I'm gonna put you in with some killers, and brought us out. Andy Sauer was there. After that we went there a couple times. Yeah, and then what was that one guy's name?
Yeah, and Jermaine was there, and. I had a couple of guys. We had a good team in Den Bosch with Andy, and I traveled because I still was with Andy on the last part of that, and with Jermaine at that time, I think, for sure. And then we had a good team, so some Moroccan fighters, and I brought a Iranian guy, a really good guy for the clinching and everything. So we had a good time then. The couple of weeks they were here. So.
Even the UFC champ, Jermaine.
Jermaine,
you're making a comeback next month also. Yeah.
She's making a comeback.
Yeah, she's making a
She's
comeback. I
making
think
a
April
comeback.
2nd she's fighting in Vegas against...
in the UFC.
Yeah, Norma Dumont. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, she's been out of the game for almost 4 years, I think. 3 years.
No, I think she
3
got a
years.
child.
Yeah, she had
I'm
a
not involved anymore,
No.
but she had a child, so I think 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah, I think 3 years since her last
Yeah.
fight, and she gave birth to a baby last year. So it's gonna be interesting, man. Especially now in this female bantamweight division is wide open, right?
I give him a small message. Give her a small message because she, the Amanda Pennington got the belt, and she wins so easy from Amanda.
She already
Pennington.
beat Pennington.
Yeah. I was there. Then I was with her, and I said, "Hey, she's not even better than that time. You have to come back." And then she told me, "Yeah, I'm back. I will be 6 April."
But she better get that wrestling down. There's one thing I always tell strikers.
Yeah.
When you go to an MMA gym, you know what they say? You better learn jiu-jitsu. Because usually there's not too many wrestlers around at these MMA gyms.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to always tell, it's just like if you go to a surgeon, they're going to say you need surgery. You go to an MMA gym and you're a striker, they're going to say you need jiu-jitsu. But the only thing jiu-jitsu is going to do is teach you how to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember Jeraine Mandamy, she got submitted against Amanda the first fight.
Mm-hmm.
She trained 6 years jiu-jitsu until the next one. And then she went all 5 rounds, but she didn't get submitted, but she was on the ground the whole time.
Yeah.
So she could survive. But the key is for strikers to be on your feet so you can knock them out and hurt them.
So take down
And
defense.
that's why you need the wrestling.
Yeah.
So the most important thing a striker needs is the wrestling so they can stay on their feet and stay in their strength.
Yeah. I was about to ask you because in Holland we were known for our world-class striking. Obviously, where you came with Cejudo here to improve on your striking. What we like a lot of times is the high level of wrestling because in the States, kids I've seen it with my eyes. Kids get raised on the mats, right? Like 5-6-year-olds, they're already wrestling. So by the time they get into like 15, 16, they start competing in like MMA. They have much history and experience in the wrestling. Something we could never make up for. So if you
got a good coach, you can.
No, but tell me, if you have like a world-class striker, like his guy Yusri is now making strides in MMA world, what would you advise to him on the subject of wrestling?
Well, he's a striker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he has to do like 80% wrestling because if you're that good of a striker, why would I strike with you?
Yeah.
If you had to, let's say I'm sitting next to you and I'm the coach of your opponent, right? And you guys speak Dutch, right?
Yeah.
But I don't.
Yeah.
And you're going to speak of the game plan.
Yeah.
To be my opponent, to my fighter.
Yeah.
Are you going to speak in English or are you going to speak in Dutch?
No, of course in Dutch. Yeah.
Why in the world would you tell him the game plan in English so I could hear it? You wouldn't.
No.
So why in the world, and I speak 3 languages, you only speak 1. Why in the world am I going to speak your language? I'm going to speak a language you don't understand.
Yeah.
And that's wrestling. So if you're very good in striking, I'm not going to strike with you if I have wrestling. And even if you're a striker and you have 0 wrestling, but I'm a striker and I learned to wrestle, I'm gonna take you out of your game plan.
Yeah.
That's why we work on that also, of course. It's not that we only strike. We try to work on the wrestling. It's always, of course, that's what we did for last fights.
Yeah.
He made a lot of time on the ground, So, but the wrestling is a problem in Holland because the level, it's getting better now. We got some Chechenian guys and then Georgian guys. There's some wrestling now in Holland, but the wrestling was not on a great level. So of course we have to make that transition, and the best thing is to go over there, but it's not always possible. People have lives. It's difficult, because the sponsorship is not great in Holland. So it's always managing. What can we do? That's why I usually go to the States and train with Glover, and we try to get them over. I let them train as much as possible to other places where they can develop their game, you know. So we're getting there, and we work on that, of course. But there's some improvement to make, of course, on that. He's totally right. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Let's make
From
a
the
deal.
start.
If you got the strikers, I'll invite them to Brazil. I have the Broad
The
Street
deal-
Global Fund,
The deal's made.
and they
The deal
have a
is made.
house.
All deals
The
made
deal's
here on the
made.
podcast.
Yeah, now.
We're giving the opportunities to the fighters, and then when these fighters learn, fight smart, get into UFC, PFL, start making some money, then they invest that money back into the Broad Street
Listen,
Global
I,
Fund, and then they get their money. They double their money.
I got another young guy, talented guy. I'm on.
Let's go.
I'm
Right.
on for sure.
That-
I know.
All the deals
that
being
part
made
is,
have been right before your
we'll
eyes
make-
here.
we'll
Let's
make
go.
them the
No,
Broad Street boys.
for me, it's totally clear. I always say that the wrestling part is the part we missing in Holland. We can get the rest. We can get here. You know, we have good level of jiu-jitsu. We have good level of striking. But the wrestling part is always the problem part. So hey, I'm on.
We're gonna even Patricio Pitbull has always asked about you.
Yeah.
He's always like, man, we gotta get Paul Lamoth to Brazil. So
Yeah.
if
Right.
we
Yeah.
can't get you, we'll get one of your fighters. But you know, Patricio's fighting next week
Yeah, he's fighting this Friday, right?
in Riyadh.
Yeah.
Yeah, PFL champs for Bellator champs.
Yeah.
And there's been a switch up in the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
He was fighting a southpaw, and now he's fighting an orthodox fighter. And he's fighting one of the sons of one of his good friends who was just murdered last month, Diego Braga, which was one of my fighters. So I trained Patricio and Diego Braga on Team Nogueira years ago. And the son used to come watch, and he was like 10 years old. And now the son's fighting Patricio Pitbull 6 weeks after his father was murdered.
Holy crap.
It's a weird,
That's a
it's
weird
a weird
situation, man. For
situation,
both of
but,
them, right?
you know, it's the first pay-per-view in the history of Saudi Arabia for MMA. You know, Turkey Al Sheikh is putting on a great show, so the show must go on, and Patricio's taking the fight, I'm sure, with a heavy heart, but he's got to take care of business and let it be known that he's the Bellator GOAT, and he's coming to take over the PFL. And, you know, I'm interested in going to Saudi Arabia. I've never been, and they're getting big into sports. You see what they're doing with golf and football, and now MMA and boxing. So I really want to I want to be there live and see what's going on. And the good thing was, I told you about the Broad Street Global project that I'm doing down there in Brazil, in Natalstan, I call it now. Because we brought these two kids from Kazakhstan, these two twin brothers. Well, one's lefty, one's righty. And I sent them to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
They're called the Idris Savage brothers. And one's the Macho Man from Kazakhstan. The other one is Chinggis Khan. But anyway, Patricio trained with them.
What was the nickname?
Patricio trained with them.
Yeah.
And they're like, I want to bring him to my fight in Saudi. He wanted to bring the southpaw because he was fighting the southpaw. I was like, he only travels with his brother. They're twins. He's like, oh, so Broad Street Global brought them both out. And today they switched, so now he's fighting an Orthodox fighter, and we have this twin brother who's an Orthodox fighter and a world champion.
Perfect.
In MMA already, in the IMMA,
The International World Amateur Championship, yeah.
So he's already there, so it worked all out, so I can't wait. I'm on my way out there. You know, I just went 0-2. I mean, some tough fights. You know, Paulo fought a former world champion.
It was a great fight, though.
He had that spinning back kick. I was proud because I called it.
How many more seconds do you think he needed to finish that fight? Maybe 10 seconds?
Yeah,
about 10, 15.
Yeah. That's how
I called it. I had mentioned it weeks ago, like, be ready at the 10-second mark to steal a round doing something interesting.
Yeah.
So when the 10-second round hit, I said, in Portuguese, chuta rodada, which means spinning wheel kick. And when he hit it, I was like,
it reminded me, and you relate to this, that spinning heel kick to the Butter Leko kick in K1 back in the day when he knocked out Leko and he broke his jaw. Yeah. Similar kick like that, only the Butter one was just placed a little bit more pure on the jaw. But yeah, I saw shades of that. I was like, it's beautiful. And I gotta give props to Whittaker for taking that, man, because he landed.
Whittaker's tough, man. I think Paulo did a lot of damage though. I think that from the touching and the point game, Whittaker touched him more. It was weird, the 30-27.
Now for Costa for sure won the first round because of the heel kick, right? So it should have been 29-28. Either way. But
the 30-27.
No.
That one didn't make sense. No. That I was standing right there, so when they said 30-27, Paulo raised his hand because it's got to be me because I won the first round, obviously. So it was kind of confusing.
Yeah.
When it went 29-28, 29-28, I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then they said 30-27. That just didn't make sense at all to me.
No, but it's strange, man, judges sometimes. Sometimes you think,
honestly, I thought 29-28 for Whittaker, in my eyes, was the right call because I think in the second and the third round he did the better work, even though Costa was still in the fight. But the funny thing is, I don't know, you sitting cage side, you've been through the whole process with Costa getting back after that elbow injury, everything. That the funny thing is that even though he lost the fight, that still it feels like his stock kind of raised because he put out a great performance. He looked great even deep into the third round. He showed a lot of improvements. Is there any good things you take away from that fight?
Yeah, Paulo's a superstar. That is undeniable. Mr. Secret Juice. He's built like a Greek god. The BLF, we call him the BLF, best looking fighter. But what I would take away is I don't even think he was close to 100% in that fight. I think we could do better at training smarter, not training as hard. It's the thing with Paulo is Paulo will do 5-hour practices. Like Paulo's he's not. You don't have to worry about if Paulo trains too little.
No,
it's the opposite. He trains too much.
And I remember that from when I was
just he was out there when you were out there. Yeah. I just think if I can, we just got to follow a system. Follow the system. We put like my other fighters that Henry, well, I take that back, Patricio and Patricky now. Henry was doing his Art of War, but I don't think he wore the heart monitor in the last couple fights. But Patricio and Patricky do, and the most important thing is to follow what it says. What zone are you going to be training in? Red zone, which is
no training.
No. Red is like 185
you mean,
beats per minute. Yeah. And then green zone is like really easy. And then yellow. It's kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
But I would like him to get on something like that where everything's monitored, where it's not like I'm going to train till I crash kind of thing. So, he just got to train smarter. If we can hone in it where he trains smarter and get to the fight as fresh as possible, I don't think anybody stops Paulo Costa, Mr. Secret Juice. And I do think he's still only a couple fights away because you're right. His stock didn't go too much down. That spinning wheel kick, he left Robert Whittaker much more damaged than him. So it was a great fight. Could have been fight of the night. And he's 2 fights away. I'd like to see him personally within the next 2 fights, fight somebody like a Sean Strickland.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I was thinking,
get right back in a title hunt.
I was thinking after that fight Saturday, why not make the Chimaev fight after all? But it was supposed to happen last year already. And I was thinking back to that. And by the time I was like, it could be a pretty even fight. But I know if I've seen Paulo this Saturday, I was like, he got a pretty good takedown defense. And no, he's a big dude, and with the striking improvements he made, I think he'll beat Chimaev up probably.
Yeah, I agree. He was so ready for that fight against. Excuse me.
Yeah.
He was so ready for that fight against Chimaev. I mean, he was trying. His elbow was like this, and he was training his ass off.
Yeah.
And Abu Dhabi, we were out there for 6 weeks, so I kind of think even with his elbow, if they would have let him fight, he would have won. Yeah. So I do like to see that. Maybe it happens in Saudi Arabia, which is the first UFC fight, because I don't think Chimaev can travel to America.
No, I think he has problems with the visa.
So Saudi is perfect. We're gonna see what happens in Riyadh right now. You know. I think Henry's pretty good friends with the Sheikh, or the Prince, excuse me. So I'm sure we're gonna have a good time out there and be treated well, and maybe even come back with Paulo Costa. I think Riyadh next week is the first MMA event. They're getting their feet wet. It's gonna be the biggest pay-per-view in the history of MMA for Saudi Arabia, and they're getting it started, and I expect big things to happen, and I expect my fighters to be part of it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Still here with Captain Erik. The man has more wardrobe changes than Tina Turner. Before you go, because you're on your way to Saudi Arabia, I want to ask you a couple of things about Henry Cejudo. The fight obviously didn't go his way. It was a good fight. Eventually, the Valasvili won, and he said before the fight, if I can't beat Merab, I'm done, because what else I have to do? He did seem to take off the gloves at some point. What's the story there?
Yeah. He hasn't announced it officially, so I'm not saying anything. I went to the hospital with Paulo after. Henry probably needed to go too. I thought that maybe he had a broken arm on that left. I think he did it early in the second. If it is the end of for Triple C's career, I could just say, he's the greatest combat athlete of all time. And ever since I met him, he had the 3 goals written at the Olympic Training Center. He was a sophomore in high school, and that was Olympic champion, UFC champion, and the ultimate dad. And he did all 3 of those. There's nothing left for him to prove.
No.
He had one of the greatest runs in the history of MMA when he beat Demetrius Johnson. That had 11 world title defenses. After a loss to him, he came back and beat him. And then after that, saved the flyweight division against the reigning bantamweight champion TJ Dillashaw, who then right after he tested positive for that fight with Henry for EPO. So then we went up a weight class, and he won the champ status with Marlon Moraes. Coach Lamoth was there. And then he fought the bantamweight GOAT in Dominic Cruz and knocked him out. So you can't take nothing away from Henry Cejudo. And to tell you the truth, I thought he won against Aljamain if it wasn't for that judge somehow giving the 5th round.
Yeah.
That was great. Aljo even said, I took the round off.
Yeah.
So it didn't even make sense. Merab Devashvili's a machine. Henry hadn't sparred, to tell you the truth, in about a month. He had an injury, a lingering injury. And to not spar, I think there was discussion to really pull out, but Henry wasn't having it, because he won the title against Demetrius on one ankle. He won the title against Marlon Moraes, one ankle and one shoulder. So, it's hard to tell somebody so competitive. He was like, I'm not pulling out no matter what. And you got to trust it. We trusted the athlete, but, with a round, that first round was the Triple C of old. Yeah. That first round. And, Paulo Lamoth knows. And, but it was a high-paced round as well. And that's kind of if that was a good strategy of theirs, it worked, because the second round he came out a little bit slower. Yeah. And, if all you're doing is swimming, it's hard to be in there and wrestle and do MMA and against a machine like Merab. And I expect Merab to probably go on and win the title. I don't know. Sean O'Malley's been, if he hasn't been training wrestling yet, I'm sure he will be now.
Yeah. You said he's nothing to prove anymore. He's done it all. He's one of the greatest, if not the greatest combat athlete of all time. Gonna kiss and tell, I understand. But if you were to give him advice, because he's not the guy who's just there to participate. He only wants to fight for the gold, which gone a little bit farther out of sight. So would you say he should hang up?
Man, as good as he looked that first round, remember, I think he beat Al Joe. He should have had the belt already. I would say no, but you got to respect your fighter's wishes. He's got a wife. He's got 2 kids. Enzo, America. He doesn't like being away from them. And he's done everything. I knew the moment I was done. I went to a wrestling tournament and I didn't feel it. I was just like, it's over. There's a turn-off switch in your heart when you're passionate for so long, but there's a turn-off switch, and just if it turns off,
it's always up to the athlete.
It's hard to turn it back on.
Sounds like he's done.
And
you want to know something?
But you know what?
It's up to the athlete.
It's up to the athlete. But Henry's also a businessman too. Yeah. He's got the YouTube channel. He's making big money there. Yeah. So we think he's doing something big with another podcast coming out soon, and Henry's knowledgeable. There's no other person that has done what he's done. So he's going to be well sought after. So he'll still be busy. He'll be able to compete in whatever he wants, whatever he does. So, but who knows? You never say never.
That's your answer.
That's my answer, and I have to take it. I don't want to keep you from missing your plane, so I want to get you out of here. It was an honor and a pleasure to have you here. Thank you very much. All the best luck in Saudi Arabia with Patricio, and welcome anytime to come back.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yo, vechtersbaas. Nou, als je tot zover bent gekomen in deze video, betekent dat je het interessant vindt. Nou, vergeet niet te liken, te abonneren en te delen. En dan hoop ik jou in het volgende filmpje weer te zien.